Okay, thanks everybody for tuning into Hermit Radio. I'm your host, Cameron, and this is another live lecture. I'm going to give a few minutes for some people to join if we're going to have any live viewers, so we'll give a few minutes for that to go down. But what I want to go ahead and explain is today's lesson. So I'm sure if you're reading the title, you're interested to understand how something like anxiety can be used as a teacher. And if you have been following what I've been saying, and if you've been tuning into my podcast, then you know that this is kind of what I mainly talk about, is dealing with emotions and handling yourself and trying to use life as a lesson and a teacher rather than constantly fighting it all the time. But we'll go ahead and give it another minute or so for everybody to catch up and get into the chat. But I just want to thank everybody for going ahead and joining anyways. It's been interesting to do this and get feedback from everybody, so I appreciate all of that. Okay, so for the lecture today, something that I thought would be very important for most people to understand is that life is a lot easier when you just let it happen. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when you allow life to happen as it's supposed to happen. And anxiety is one of those things that when you stress about it and you constantly fixate on it, that is the resistance. That's the problem that you're having right there. So and they talk about this in therapy. I have had a few years in my life where I went to therapy for experiences I had in the military, and something that they focused on a lot was going back to reliving trauma, or going back to this one event or maybe multiple events that cause you pain and discomfort. And the reason they do this is because they want you to become comfortable with the memory. They want you to become comfortable with the thought processes that you're having around those specific events. If you'll notice, and there's research being done on it, when you have PTSD, and this isn't just from combat, this is any type of PTSD, you have emotions and feelings attached to memories. So your body might actually physically react when you have a memory or when you have a trigger that makes you think of that memory. So what you're in essence trying to do is rewire your brain to see it and act differently every time you go back to that thought or feeling. But if you can do that with trauma, and that's what we're talking about, is these specific instances, there is a good possibility that you can rewire your brain to correct that kind of behavior all the time. And this is something that I'm incorporating into my everyday life that I try to work with. And this is where I feel like Zen in the Eastern philosophy meets the West and meets modern day life. So Zen is a belief, and probably one of my favorite things ever said about Zen is when you try to describe it, you've already lost the purity of it. Zen isn't a way of living. It isn't a belief. It's not a religion. It's an idea that life is, right? So take this pencil, for example. The fabric of this pencil, it's green, it's got lead in it, it's got an eraser to it. No matter what I do to it, the essence of this is always supposed to be a pencil. Even if you break it down and you look at the tiny fabric pieces and the little pieces of plastic, you're still going to know that it was green at one point. It was made for a pencil at one point. That's its purpose. That's this thing. And that's just an inanimate object. But now think about your emotions and your feelings this way. So a good example, one that we can all relate to, is anger. When you feel anger, you have pretty much two basic responses. You either try to hold back and keep yourself from feeling anger, and you do things and we practice techniques to try and bring us back down or keep it from getting too far up. Or you're the person that lives in the anger. If you're feeling that emotion, you're in it, and then you don't know how else to feel until it's done, until it passes. And Zen is really all about letting it happen, right? Not trying to create resistance by avoiding being angry or avoiding situations that make us angry. What kind of life is that? So really what we're trying to do is to allow life around us to happen as it's supposed to happen, and then learn from that experience if you're reacting a certain way. Because why do we react to anything? Because of the way that because of the way our brains work over years and years and years and years of evolution. And we have repeated behaviors and patterns that we've had since we were children. And that's how the brain operates: wavelengths, memories, patterns. And then that carries on into where you're an adult, right? We talk about children who are abused, and they have less likely of a chance of growing up and being a successful, fully functioning human being because of traumas they experienced as children. This is actually the same thing for just every part of the mind as it's growing up, as it's developing. You're picking up on behavior from everyone around you, your parents, your adults, your teachers. And because of the brain, it's because of the way that it absorbs information that develops you as a character or an ego when you become an adult. So you look at some of the things that you do or what you say. We'll use me as an example. When I was growing up, my dad was in the military. His dad was in the military. Most people on the male side in our family were in the military. So by nature, I picked that up, and because I felt like it was my job, I felt like it was necessary, I felt like I needed to do this. And because of that feeling, I chased after it, and then I went into the military. When really, I don't know that I was ever supposed to be in the military. I never felt at home there. And no matter what I did, I just never felt like I was doing enough or I was ever good at it. And there's a good chance that maybe I just didn't belong there. And I've accepted that in my life because of who I want to be now. And who I want to be now is a caring, loving, kind person. And that it's not that I didn't learn that growing up. Of course, we have love and kindness in our life, but it's not shaped in a way that develops you into being a healthy human being that knows how to function and communicate with other human beings in society. And we could probably talk for hours and hours about that. And I don't have a one-way solution to fix this. I'm just saying it how it is. And that is the point of Zen, is allowing things to be what they are. So when you feel yourself get angry, if you're going to be the person that's going to have the anger and be in the emotion, if you know that that's the kind of person you are, which this is me, when I get angry, I do everything I can to hold it back. But what I'm learning is that it's not healthy for me to hold it back. What is healthy is to find another way to express it or feel it. And Thich Nhat Hanh, a very wise, beautiful Buddhist monk, he wrote a book where he talks about nurturing it like a child, treating your anger like a child. And now picture that. Use your imagination and picture that. If your anger, if you could characterize it and visualize it into a small child, how do you help a small child when they're having a fit or when they're upset? You nurture it. You give it love and you treat it with compassion and you help it. That's what you need to do for yourself. And that is part of loving yourself. When we talk about that, and you've heard that, I'm sure, over and over again, you need to love yourself before you can love others. This is a way of doing that, because what we do is when we get angry or we do something that upsets us or upsets others around us, we regret it afterwards. And then we think, okay, well, how do I go back and fix this? What do I need to do afterwards? When you could try something else, for example, walking away. If you know that you're that kind of person that gets really heated and wants to engage in maybe conflict conversation, because there is that. That's a real thing. Sometimes when we want to talk to people, we're already fired up and the conversation isn't constructive, it's destructive. And we all do it. Everyone is guilty of it. But if you can catch yourself before all of that and know that this is the feeling that's coming up, treat yourself with respect and love yourself. Go somewhere else, walk away, and just sit alone for a little bit and really think about it. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Do I really feel this way? Am I really this angry? And if I am, why? Rationalize it. Why are you angry right now? What is causing it? Is it really the other person's fault, or is it maybe how you're seeing it? That's what we're guilty of as well. And again, in Eastern tradition, this is what it's all about, is having a neutral standpoint, being able to see things from both perspectives and not judging it and not acting on it as soon as you feel the feeling that you're feeling. When you can address your weakness and you can sit with these anxieties, you actually are giving yourself power back. Because there's nothing worse than when you're frustrated and it feels like you don't have control, which you don't, but realizing you don't have control on top of being frustrated, that's a recipe for disaster. And so what you can do, you first of all treat yourself with respect, give yourself the space it needs. But when you can identify the reason that you're getting angry, right? Let's say you're in an argument with somebody and you don't agree with them, and that's why you're frustrated. They don't see the world the same way that you see it. Well, do you really need to be frustrated about that? If you can't change the other person's point of view, then why stress and worry about it? Just let it go. Because what you're not realizing is that feeling that you're generating and the judgment you're putting on the other person, you're harboring that inside you. Think about that like an energy. That feeling and the emotion that you have behind it, that's an energy that sits in your body. And that until you let it go or stop thinking about it, it's just going to eat you up, and it's going to play like a revolving door around and around and around again. And you'll find other ways to get frustrated. You might make something that's so tiny and insignificant into this big thing, which we are all guilty of doing. So when you can sit with yourself, and whether it's meditation or reflection, and you can identify the things in your life that you know are probably a wrong perception or a wrong judgment of somebody else or another group of people, first of all, that's brave to do. It takes a very brave and wise person to identify flaws in themselves. Nobody wants to be flawed, but we all are in our own ways. And when you can identify those things, again, that allows you to nurture yourself. That is part of loving yourself, is also understanding yourself and seeing past the person that you are pretending to be when you leave your house to go do anything, right? We laugh at other people's jokes when they might not be that funny. We try to engage in conversation with people when we may not really want to. And do you ever notice when you talk to somebody and you just keep talking and talking, you don't even remember what you were talking about or why you were having the conversation? It almost feels like you were on autopilot. That is your brain actually on autopilot, because your conversation, the people that you're engaging with, you're acting and reacting out of the ego development that you've developed since you were a child. Sometimes you have conversations that you may not want to have, but you just do it for the sake of being in conversation with somebody. Or you may talk to somebody that you don't really want to be around, or you may not like, just for the sake of having the conversation and being polite because you think that's what you have to do. And that's, I guess, the root of what these lessons are and what I'm trying to say on my podcast. We need to, all of us, deconstruct our minds and rewire everything the way that we want it to be. Because if this is the only life you have, why would you want to waste it doing anything other than being happy, doing what you want to do, and serving somebody or something that doesn't serve you? You don't have to do those things. And that's the problem with the life that we're living right now, is that all of these things around us, we think that we have to do them. We think that we have to make these other people happy. We have to go make our boss happy. You know, you can live your life how you want to, and you're the most important person in your life. This is it. This is all you have. Do what makes you happy. Pursue your passion. Don't take your purpose, right? We all want purpose, and we all ask ourselves, what is my purpose? Your purpose is your passion. Whatever you're passionate about, make that your purpose. Instead of constantly seeking something outside of you, asking yourself, well, will I ever get this job? Will I ever be with this group of people? Will I ever make this money? Just take action and do what makes you happy right now. Whatever that is. Find ways to do that every day. And little by little, by creating those healthy, positive habits, they will remain and retain in your brain, in your subconscious mind, and you will live them over and over and over again. And that's how you change things in your life. To break the matrix, or to break the fabric of the conditioning that you have to reinforce it with positive behaviors to correct the negative ones. So when negative things happen to us in our lives, we tend to think of ourselves as a victim, right? And I don't mean a victim like a victim of a crime. I mean, we make ourselves the victim, right? I talk a lot about being in traffic, and when somebody cuts you off, your reaction, right, for most people, can't speak for everyone, but for most people, it's to get angry or upset because they cut you off, or they got too close to your car, because you think they shouldn't have done that. Because you think they shouldn't be close to your car, or they shouldn't cut you off, or they shouldn't do this. But there's nothing in this universe that says those people have to do that, or that can't do that, right? We have laws, we have rules that say that, but you are not able to enforce those. Even the police have a hard time enforcing them. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't make it right, but you have to either trust that karma will play out and they will get theirs in the end, or B, you truly have no control, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But either way, you can let go of the feeling that you're feeling in that situation, because it's not helping you. It's not healthy. And think about this. I talked about earlier, like frustration, anger, all these negative feelings we have, they stick in us like energy. They cling to our body, right? You don't even feel good when you're arguing with somebody, or when you're mad or upset. You don't even feel comfortable in your own skin. Some ways of really, if you're not the kind of person that likes to meditate and mentally try to play it out, what it takes is, if it's energy, we need to move it, right? We need to move the energy away from us. And how do you do that? Moving the energy away from you. Try dancing. As silly as that sounds, try dancing. If you're feeling angry or upset or whatever, try moving that inside you and see what that does. Try dancing, and try just listen to your favorite song on repeat, smile, force yourself to smile and dance, and watch how your mood and your feelings change with it. That is how you create healthy habits and encourage the seeds of positivity in your life to be cultivated. So some other examples of that are yoga. Yoga is obviously a great one as far as moving like energy in your body. But if you're going to do yoga, that's why some traditions in the East see yoga as also meditating. Incorporate that too. Don't just do the moves to stretch. Don't just make the shapes, but actually be mindful of the energy in you and where you're trying to move it, the feeling that you have, right? For me, when I feel angry, I feel it on my chest. I feel my chest get tight, and I feel myself kind of doing this when I get frustrated or angry. Just move your body and allow that to become free. Yoga is a beautiful way of doing that. Dancing is a beautiful way of doing that. But my personal favorite is meditating and working through it in my own mind, and creating visualizations, creating pictures. This may sound really silly to people watching this, but I just recommend that you try it. Something that you can do for visualization of a moment, right? Take a moment that has caused you anxiety in your life, or is continuing to cause you anxiety. Think about yourself then, picture yourself then, and then picture yourself now in front of that version of you, side by side, and have a conversation with yourself, and see what happens. How will it feel? Make it real. How would you back then respond to you now? And how would you respond to your past self? Visually, it's just in your imagination. But what it can do is it can help you understand things that you may not be seeing on the outside, right? Take the iceberg, where you're seeing only 10%, 90% is underneath the water where it's not visible. This kind of work is wonderful for trying to treat. It's even being used for trauma treatments. So again, do your own research, and I encourage you to go look that up and try that. But also try it for yourself. See if that can do anything for you. By seeing everything as happening for you versus happening to you, you're actually allowing yourself to move freely through life, right? The flow that I talk about, the flow in the universe, or the flow in nature, flowing with the river, what we're actually talking about is you being able to move with life instead of fighting against it. The resistance is what's causing problems, right? Let's say your work, for example, your work is telling you that you have to do something. You have to come in on Saturday and work Saturday. What is your reaction? And be honest with yourself. man, I really don't want to go to work today. I feel like I shouldn't have to go work on Saturday, right? I don't want to have to do this. This is ridiculous. This is my day off. I shouldn't have to do that. Or you can see it as your work needs your help and they're asking you to do this. You could see it as another opportunity to make more money if you need it. There are other ways to see situations. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be perfect at it each time that it happens. This does not mean that each situation that you're in, that you have to be perfect and you have to realize it the first time. But the goal is it's progress, not perfection. We want to build off of this. We want to actually build up our lives to that point where we can, when we are faced with a situation and we treat it positively from the first time. When you do that, that's moving with the flow of life. And no matter what religion you believe in, no matter if you believe in a religion, if you're looking for a way to get through life, and if you are looking for a way to help navigate, this is an easy way to do that. Zen, I encourage you to look it up. There's a lot of books and there's multiple websites. But if you want an interesting take on Zen and Zen Buddhism, look up Alan Watts. Alan Watts has done a lot of work with Zen Buddhism, and he's written a few books. He's had a few essays written. He's got a lot of lectures on YouTube you can watch. But it's one of those things, it may not make sense at face value. It may take you a while to sift through it. You might have to listen to some of the lectures over and over again, like I did, because it didn't make sense to me really at all at first. It was like a light bulb came on for me one day and I understood what it was saying. Because for me, the reason I was trying to look at Zen is because I'm trying to live a life without anxiety, and I'm trying to live without depression, and I'm trying to be the master of my anger. And when I started looking into this and I started researching Alan Watts and reading his books, they talk about Zen a lot. But really what they're trying to say is read this whole book, but you will still know nothing about Zen, because Zen is just doing life. It's spontaneous living life. What happens is we become self-aware of our situation and our environment, and we don't want it to be this way. And so we resist it. And we resist having confrontation. We resist having emotion. We resist the moments in life that we experience. Those things are causing you anxiety and depression and sadness. Now, not any one of these things can change your life forever and make you a better person, but it has to come from here. That's what all of these mystics and gurus and authors, that's what they all say. It all comes from within your internal will and how you want to live your life. If you want change and you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen. You'll manifest it. It will occur in your life and there will be opportunities presented for you to change. But it's all a test. It's all a game. Will you take the opportunity when it's presented? Will you see it as an opportunity, or will you continue to live in the negative thoughts that you've been living your whole life and reliving them over and over and over again, especially when they occur to you in life? Here's another good example. This one may hit close to home for some people. Before I had this awakening for myself, I used to be a very jealous partner. And everything that anyone did around my wife or girlfriend, I took it as a threat, and I would see it as them trying to hit on my wife or hit on my girlfriend, until I started making these changes and I realized, like, dude, that's just your perception. Really, they're just trying to have conversation. And even if they were flirting with her, why? Who cares? My wife loves me and I love my wife. I have nothing to worry about. But that is a very real thing that happens to all of us. And when I started making these changes in my life, again, what is that doing? Having those thoughts, having that perception was making me create resistance. It was getting me in trouble with my partners and getting me in trouble with people around me because I'd be so paranoid about it. And that's something that we do to ourselves up here. And these practices, doing things like Zen, not doing Zen, but really living Zen, and meditation and reflection time and yoga, all these things allow you to see these chances in life, to see it from another angle, another perception. But what it takes is for you to be a responsible human being that's in charge of your emotions. Your emotions and feelings are like a weapon, and you are the only one that controls them. So you need to learn how to properly handle that in every interaction you have with people. And that is the fundamental problem in our society right now, is people don't realize that their words and that their thoughts are like weapons, and we're hitting each other with them all day long. These things help you get that in check. Be responsible. If you're feeling angry, love yourself enough to walk away and to not let it get worked up to a place of unhealthiness. Walk away, go somewhere else. Go sit in a room with the door shut and just sit in silence for 10, 20 minutes. Allow yourself to calm down. If you're feeling sad, allow yourself to feel sad. No one in this world can tell you that you can't feel sad, or that you can't feel what you're feeling, or that your feelings aren't valid. Your feelings are valid because they're yours in your life, and that's it. You only have this one, so let it be. You don't have to run from your feelings. You don't run from being happy. You just run from sadness and anger because it's not comfortable and it doesn't feel good. But maybe you need that. Maybe as a person to evolve and grow, you need that in your life. So don't be afraid of it. Don't run away from it. I coined this phrase and I put this on my Twitter the other day: allow life to flow or it won't go. I feel like that's pretty much easier said than done sometimes. When we're faced with these kinds of situations, like right now, right? The pandemic, the movement for Black Lives Matter and changing racism in the world, all of this stuff is really big, and it's frightening. It's beautiful, and it's concerning because we don't know what's going to happen day to day, month to month. I mean, at least for this year, it seems like things keep getting worse, but it's like a pendulum, right? If the earth is a pendulum and the way that things go is swinging back and forth, it always goes really wide, but eventually it'll balance back out and it'll find itself in the middle. I think that's what's happening right now. I think humans have been doing things the same way for so long that we're just trying to find balance. And there's a lot of hate in the world, and we can fix that. We can cure that by working on ourselves. By being the best version of you, you're presenting yourself as a gift to everyone else around you. And I know it's hard. Not everybody around you wants to be helpful or kind or gracious. But if you can do that, then it sets the example for other people around you and in your life to be that person and uplift them. Think about how many times in your life you needed somebody to lift you up, or to give you a hug, or just tell you that everything's going to be okay. And how many times have you not had that person? You can be that person for someone else, for everyone else. And someday it will encourage them to do that for other people as well. You can do that. That can happen in this world, in this life, today, tomorrow. If we do it today and tomorrow, and people keep doing it day after day, we will make change. That is how you bring heaven on earth, by making it a wonderful place to live in, and by being beautiful people to each other. And that is heaven. When you can live without judgment and live without fear and anger and sadness, when we can get rid of those things or manage them better, then we will have what we're looking for. Because as humans, with the abilities that we have how far we've come, we'll either be destroyed by our own technologies and ruin ourselves and ruin our planet, or we can make a change. We will have the chance to become what we're truly supposed to be and keep going further and further. We need free energy. We need to stop homelessness. We need to stop world hunger. We can do these things together. People with money, if they were going to do it, they would have done it already. It takes every one of us to be aware of it and to love each other enough and to love ourselves enough to make a better tomorrow. So I appreciate everybody coming to watch this lecture. I will be continuing to do these. And the purpose and intent is to help everyone watching explore their emotions, explore their mind, and offer you tools and techniques to manage them better and to find joy in this life in these times right now, because we can all do it together. All it's going to take is just a little love from each and every one of us, and we can make change for everyone else. If you are interested in getting more information, or if you want to have a conversation about any of the things I've said, feel free to shoot me a message or leave a comment. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I do check those daily, so if you want to reach out to me there, I will also be there. I also am on Reddit. We do have our own page, and we can have open discussions there on some of our chat rooms. So feel free to check that out as well. But thank you guys for watching and listening. And if you have anything that you want to know, or if you have any comments about this this lecture, please let me know in the comment section. But until next time, I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.